Hello and welcome to day 3 of our bonus week for Get Biz Lean with our 5 generations of epic entrepreneurs. My name is Jennifer Santoro and I'm also known as Coach J here. And I am very happy because I am joined by the one and only Dottie Berry, who's known as Coach B, to be able to talk with me today a little bit about this next phase of the solutions-focused model for entrepreneurship. We're going to be talking about collaboration today. And to get started, I would like to just do a quick review of what we discussed yesterday. So yesterday we went and discussed about being able to identify a problem worth solving. We discovered a little bit more about our value system and how their values are kind of our compass to figure out what it is that we really care about and how we really can walk within integrity to be able to find solutions that will really be resulting in the best results to being able to solve those problems. And so in that, we really talked a lot about these value structures, and what I wanted to do was ask Coach B to come on board today and kind of talk a little bit more about discovering your epic code, because she put a lot of time and effort and energy into developing this really powerful tool. I know that we've really talked about it quite a bit during this whole journey of Get Your Biz Lean, and the reason why I'm bringing it up again today is because Dottie, I wanted to ask you, because I haven't had this conversation with you before. You know that I was so excited when I saw that the Epic Code is based off of a values assessment. And so I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what inspired you to use the value structures for this particular assessment tool that you developed.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jen. First of all, speaking about collaboration, it's absolutely a pleasure to collaborate with you. My daily mantra, if you would have, is, connecting, engaging, innovating, empowering, and collaborating and leveraging our unique collective talents to form epic synergistic partnerships globally. And so that collaboration in what we're doing together is very big. And it's what's so interesting is that you were known as Coach J and I was known as Coach B. So, just all these synchronicities come into play. But on the values, if you really look at it, our values is what makes us. That's who we really are. And, personality profiling goes way back, to Socrates and, a long time ago. And a lot of people use it. It's, it's not a secret in any way. You know what I'm saying? So there's all types of things out there is my point. And so in looking at the values, though, and all, the distinction is that I wanted people to really get how awesome they are. Like, Jen, how awesome you are. When I tell people you are epic, it's like their eyes just light up. And people like to hear that, like, wow, because we're so often, honestly, what are we so often telling ourselves? Who I am is not okay. I'm not enough. All of us have these things, myself included. What I know, though, and your model is so perfect for this, Jen, is taking it from being problem focused, I'm not okay, to being solution focused. I am epic. You are epic. We are all epic. And what I personally feel about some of the personality profiling, as much as I love them, I've done Myers-Briggs more times than I can count on probably 2 hands, DISC and so forth. I've loved all of those through the years, but they take longer. And what I know is when you're really in that moment, you probably can't say, hey, Jen, before I start this presentation or before we get going here, would you do the Myers-Briggs? If somebody's an employee or, you're in some kind of program, that's different. But when you're just meeting people, but if you can say, hey, do me a favor, take a look at these cards. And I left my phone in here because I didn't want it to be ringing off. But the physical cards, in fact, let me get them real quick. It's so close. It's so close. I should just do that. Because this is really, I think, an important part of it, Jen, and I hope you don't mind me just sharing that. But when I say to people, please do me a favor, take a look at these cards and move the card with the values that most resonate with you to the top, down to the one that least resonates with you on the bottom, you know. And this is going to save us time and energy, and it's going to help me understand how we can work better together in the future. Something along those lines, even when you do it online, you know, just drag and drop them from left to right in the order that's most important to you. Well, that's a very short thing that I actually said in about 12 to 13 seconds. And it hits everybody's epic code in one way or another. That's the 4 languages that I spoke in. And so people do it because when they think, oh, under 90 seconds, that's not really a big time commitment. In our world, that's what we need, something short, quick, sweet. So anyway, you know, when we have that, I call this the Holy Grail, the relationship magnet. You know what I'm saying? Because we have in our hands then what's very valuable about somebody. If we do that, it gives us information. It's like them handing this back to us and saying, this is who I am, rather than me guessing. Because I don't know about you, but I don't have a crystal ball, you know, that tells me this when I meet somebody. But I know all my life I have desperately wanted to connect with people and communicate with people on a deeper level. And so that's my opportunity every day, is to be able to do that. But quite honestly, I realized from my own experiences that sometimes people just didn't get Dottie Berry or hear what I was saying. You know, I would be patting myself on the back about the presentation of a lifetime, and they're over there zoned out. And, you know, so what I realized is that, wow, I've got to speak in the language they understand. It's just as simple. Let's say, Jen, that you and I were going overseas and we were going to France, and we were going to have to be doing some presentations by which each of us was going to be awarded $1 million if we did the best presentation and they chose us. And let's say that you knew both French and English, and I only knew English. And the people that were going to be listening to the information only spoke French. And we went over there, and I, you know, did my presentation in English and thinking I'd done really great. And you went over there and you presented it in the way that they could hear it. You spoke it in their language, French. Who do you think is going to win that $1 million? You are. So I think it's just really important, because the values tell us so much about who people are. And what I love is that without even knowing this before we started collaborating, you actually have all of this about values built into your model, you know, for entrepreneurship, going from being identifying the problem and being solution focused, and then taking action. And so it all plays into our values. So I hope that's helpful. And if people, you know, are still interested, you haven't done that yet, please go over to 247epicentrepreneurs.com. And when you go in there, you're going to see a button that says Discover Your Epic Code, and you're going to be able to do that. So Jen, in closing here, just sort of bring it back together, is what I hope is that by people knowing one another's epic code, and whoever sends a link actually gets a detailed report back on that person, what motivates them and so forth, a little bit different report than the person who actually discovered their epic code, is that we won't be using this personality profile and assessment to separate, like my code's better than yours or this. You see, we're a blend. If you are PICE, or if you are EI, you know, whatever combination that comes up, think about a color. A color, you know, the complex colors, and we're all complex, is made up of multiple colors to create the color that we see. So everybody, no matter how your code ends up, it's a valuable component. You know, the primary tells us a little bit different than the others, but all of it is important. And the primary thing is, this is for us to be able to better connect, not to disconnect and act like this code's better than that or whatever. So I hope that gives a little insight into it.
It does. I cannot thank you enough, Dottie. Thank you so much for taking the time to really do that explanation for everyone. I think it's really important for people to know where this was inspired by, and that this is really based off of something that is very valuable, and that valuable aspect comes from understanding somebody's values, because somebody's values makes up the components of who they really are, and at the end of the day, what they really care about. And I think for me, what I would like to bring forward for people to be thinking about with this particular assessment is the inside out approach. This is something that I personally am very passionate about, and that is start with self first. Start with really focusing on understanding who am I, and understanding who it is that you want to be in the world. And so the more self-discovery that you do, the easier of a process it is to be able to show up with that word integrity. And why do I keep emphasizing that word integrity? I really believe that that is where your highest success is always going to come from. When we're not living in integrity with ourselves, so many more blocks end up showing themselves, and we have so many more distractions in our lives. And I believe it's just because it means that we're not in alignment. For me, I believe that integrity is synonymous with being in alignment with ourselves, with living by our value system, and really living by the passions that we were put on this earth to bring forward, and the entrepreneurship heart is born from that passion. It's born from understanding, wow, that feeling of being able to express that feeling of, this is why I get up in the morning. This was what I was put on this earth to do. This is why I'm here, and when you can apply that to solving problems, you offer so much value to the people that you're working with and working for and collaborating with. And so that's why I really wanted to emphasize the values aspect and the clear understanding of that, because when you know that what makes you tick, you'll be able to go further than you ever dreamed imaginable. So I started by saying the inside out approach. So it starts by understanding us first. Then it goes into understanding those around you. And that's also why I really, really love the EPIC code assessment, because it helps to be able to understand the people that you're working with, what it is that they care about, and what is going to be the best way for them to receive the messages that you're trying to communicate. So that really shows up in this next phase of the model, which is the collaboration phase. And so what I'm going to do now is screen share so you can see the model again. Give me just one moment while I do this. All right, so let's dive in over here. So this again is a reminder, this is the solutions focused process model. And so as you know, yesterday we talked a lot about the being able to identify problems worth solving. And then we went into coming up with some ideas for solutions. And today now we're shifting into the next phase, which would be the collaboration phase. So this is where we go from the inside out approach, right? We go from taking a moment to figure out some solutions on our own and kind of brainstorming some ideas of what we believe some possible solutions could be, to now we're going to shift into bringing these solutions to other people in our life. And so let's take a moment to go to the next slide. And so these are some questions, some coaching questions, if you will, to be able to reflect on collaboration phase and how you can actually implement it. So what I would like for you to do next is, as we're bringing our solutions, our ideas for solutions forward, and that's what I want to emphasize, it's an idea for a solution, because we just started to brainstorm the solution. So now what I want you to do is start thinking about who can you ask for feedback? So yesterday I had mentioned that I was going to take some time to talk a little bit about who's on your team. And so I think that this is a very, very important aspect of entrepreneurship. We are not, I'm a big believer that we are not meant to go this journey alone. It's way too lonely to try to do it all by ourselves. And if any of you are trying to do it by yourselves, you are probably shaking your head and saying, yes, like this is way too much. Or if you have tried, or if you do have a team now, there are probably good odds that there have been moments along the way where you really had to do it by yourself and it was just too much and you're saying, yes, no, it is way too much to operate everything on my own. And so this is where I like to say, okay, this is the moment where you want to ask yourself, okay, who's on my team? And throughout the this past month of reflections, some of the questions and reflections that came up was talking about the concept of we are a makeup of the top 5 people that we spend our time with. So and that can mean a lot of different things for different people, and all it is just understanding that whoever you're spending your time with is going to have a huge influence on us. It's just a natural aspect of this experience. And so when you are in entrepreneurship, you're going to consistently be in this problem solving process. And so what you want to start reflecting on is, okay, like who are the people that I admire? Who are the people who are living in the integrity that I align with, that I have a lot of respect for? Who are the people in your life that you have a lot of respect for and that you really value their thought process and their opinion? So as you are considering different solutions, part of the process is just asking for some feedback. Now, I say this also to take it with a grain of salt. It's one of those things where, we don't have, sometimes you just have to follow your instincts and just, follow what feels right for you. Because the thing is that nobody has like the perfect answer, right? One of my favorite things that I was told to me during my coach training, which was through the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching, they would say, you are the expert in your own life. Everyone is an expert in their own life, right? So in a lot of the scenarios, you just have to understand that what works for somebody else might not work for you. However, though, you can take their feedback and learn from what they learned and then try to apply it to your current situation. So I hope that makes sense. To be sure to ask for feedback, because you don't want to do it alone. You don't want to go at problem solving alone if you don't have to. But when you do get that feedback, it's important to be able to, like I said, take it with a grain of salt and apply what feels right. So
might I give a real world example
I would love
here?
that, Dottie. Thank you.
Well, I can't help but think about the very group that we are involved with, which is our 5 generations of what we call E3.
Yeah.
We're the expert epic entrepreneur coaches, and our 5 generations are the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. I'm the 60s, and Jen is the 30s. And Jen was the last piece that we were able to find, and Jen, you've been such a wonderful addition. As Stephanie said in our Skype thread yesterday, I mean, it's as if you've just always been a part of who we are in our team. And so when I had this, idea of what might be possible with bringing a group together to create trainings like this, I just thought of who are the people I know are good, I respect their experience, etc. And when I met you, Jen, I knew that you were the missing link for that 30s. And so, the other thing that I would add is, as we met, I realized that I was getting ready to embark on a project that's very, very huge, and that is on helping people how to create their own online course, because there's so many people that are what I call mavens. They have a message to share. They have an expertise and they want to launch a course. They just don't know how to do it. And I was getting ready to do that, quote unquote, by myself. And I tapped you on the shoulder to say, look, would you like to be a part of this? And thankfully you said yes. And I just said, you know, us just together. I mean, it didn't matter to me how much work I'd done up to that point. It wasn't, I want people to really get that when you bring people in, it's not what you're giving up, it's what you're gaining. And that is powerful. So, you know, that I knew would make the project even bigger and better and again, collaborative. So I'm very grateful that you said yes, but I want people to understand this is how the real situation can happen when you see somebody out there. And to the point you were talking about the people you surround yourself with, let me just give a shout out to our own Stephanie Scheller Dupre. She is absolutely awesome with recognizing that and wrote a book called Friend Power, because she said, wow, all these people have written these books and they say it's important, but they've dedicated this much time in their book, you know, a very small amount to writing about it. So she wrote a whole book about it, and it's very true. So, you know, I just think sometimes a real world example of how we're implementing what you're talking about might be helpful.
I'm so grateful that you did. That was awesome, Dottie. It was a perfect example. I will say I was very, very honored when you asked me if I would be open to collaborating with you on the Training to Transform program. And I'm so excited for it. It really is going to be amazing. And so I'm honored to be a part of it. So now the second question is once you get that feedback, the next question is who can assist you with the execution of the solutions, right? So this is where we start thinking through the actual execution strategy. So, you know, who are the people who are going to be the most helpful with, you know, executing the solution? So the example that comes up in my mind whenever I am discussing this part of the model is the idea of people on the bus and making sure that everybody's in the right seat on the bus. So that was from a really famous book. And Dottie, can you remember the name of that particular book? It's escaping me at the moment in time, which I apologize for. But it's just making sure that everybody. Do you remember, Dottie?
I do not. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I will figure it out, and then I'll post it when I remember the name of the book. Is it? I think it's Good to Great is what it is.
Was that in Brene Brown's? No, that's not hers.
No, it was a different author. I will figure it out.
She uses that a lot is the reason that saying. So
I can see that for sure. So the concept of that is using this idea of what we were talking about earlier with the EPIC code of understanding, you know, what are people passionate about? What do they care about? What makes them tick? There are certain people who are going to be more inclined to organizing things and making these things happen. So for example, you know, if you're running a business and you need somebody to really sit down with some spreadsheets, you can probably name some people in your life who are naturally inclined to being able to sit down and really do well with that sort of task.
And Jen, code them, and a person who has a P as their primary code would be an excellent person for that.
Perfect. Exactly. So then, in another example, if you have to make sure that you have somebody who's going to be on the front lines and make the best first impression for a potential client, you're going to want to have somebody who really is very comfortable with being in that level of a situation. Now, Dottie, would you say that that's an E?
Say that again. I couldn't quite hear you.
Oh, no, it's okay. So somebody who is on the front line, so to make the first impression with a new client. So they would be the first ones having a conversation with a new client.
Yes, normally that's going to be an E, but it could also be a C.
Okay.
Because they are the connector. And it depends, you know, and I'll tell you, EC or CE could be a great person. See, the E is the person who takes action, but the C is the real connector. So, you know, you could certainly look at either of those would be great.
Got it. Perfect. So that's something to just kind of consider, is that as you're figuring out, you know, the execution of a solution, just be thinking about, you know, different personality types and what personality type is going to execute that particular part of the solution probably that best, you know, or and at the end of the day, it's going to be happiest doing that particular task, because I think we've all been in the scenarios where, you know, it doesn't mean that we can't do something. So my example of this is I had in college a data entry job, just to kind of make some extra money, and I did pretty well for the first month, but after that first month, I started to go crazy. It just was not sustainable for me because I'm a very relationship-oriented person, and data entry, the computer doesn't talk back, you know, so it was very difficult for me to be able to maintain doing a task like that for a long period of time. So I wasn't the best match for that type of work. However, though, you know, when it came to relationship building, I'm your gal. You know, I can do that over and over and over again and never burn out. So when, you know, I'm considering where I need to be on the team, you know, I'm always thinking about, okay, where is my strength? Where am I most comfortable? Where is it going to be most sustainable for me for the different positions that I am working in? So then the final question on this particular slide is, what resources are required for successfully implementing and testing the solution? So I feel like this is very, very important for the collaboration phase. These are different conversations that you want to be able to have and different reflections that you want to be able to have. You want to be able to be as prepared as possible, and a lot of times you have to think about, okay, so this is a solution that I would like to bring forward, but what resources am I going to need? So I'm going to stop screen sharing just for a moment. And Dottie, I'd love to bring you in to talk a little bit about this, because I feel you are so well versed in understanding what resources are out there and how to really take on this level of a process. And so I see you implementing this with our Training to Transform program, of being able to figure out, okay, what resources do we need? What do we need to get in place? And then, you know, how do we move forward with that? So can you talk a little bit to that?
Yes, you know, and it's interesting because it's a conversation we had when I invited you to collaborate with me on the project, you know, of Dare to Take Your Epic Journey, you know, become an educator entrepreneur, get your online course out to the world so that you can both make an impact and make an income. So as we begin to talk about that, we were really looking at, Jen, what do you like to do? Because you asked me, what do you want me to do? And what did I do? I'm the queen of reverse engineering. I just looked back and said, no, what do you want to do? Because that's what's most important. Then I can look at things and sort of say what will work and so forth and fit. But what I do know is, from my 35 years of being an entrepreneur, I am a visionary, okay? That's me in a nutshell. And so, as my spouse Robbie says, you see all the forest, and she sees every tree and every knot on every tree, which makes it a great combination. I mean, she is a PC in her first two codes, and so she's in clinical research but really connects. So that's an awesome with what she does with people. And so I'm just using that example is because we're all the time trying to say, where do we mix? What am I best at? What are you best at? And so my forte has been in all my businesses is seeing the vision and then going out and putting together the pieces of the puzzle, knowing that I can't do everything. Unfortunately, I'm good at a lot of different things, but I'm not great, I tell people, at anything except being a visionary and recognizing great talent. So that is what I'm an expert at. But that's a great skill that I have. So my point is to what you were saying, Jen, is sometimes I can do things. It doesn't mean that I need to spend my energy there. See, I can bring forth and do things for a bit, like you said, but after a while, I don't need to be doing that. And the way you can automatically tell is if you feel like you're just drained after an activity. If you feel drained rather than empowered with energy, and it's not about have you stayed up late, it's not that kind of thing. I don't care if it's 3 minutes you spend in a task or 3 hours. Did you feel just empowered at the end of that time, like you wanted to just keep doing it, or did you feel like, oh my gosh, I am driving myself crazy? So that's how you can quickly discern, because you talked about, Jen, paying attention to your feelings. So what I do is I go out and I have to find people who can either do the things I hate to do and I know drain me, or do the things that I actually have some enjoyment, but it just doesn't make sense, because on the pecking order, I have to start looking at priorities. Okay, maybe I can do this, this, and this, but nobody else can do that. And you know what I'm saying? So I've got to make sure that really gets done, and I can have people help me with this. For instance, on the concept of the Discover Your Epic Code, online tool, I am not a coder, but I had a vision for where I wanted it to go and what I wanted it to do, and I had spent hours and hours and hours of having to go back but I'm sort of setting the flow of that, if you will. I had to lay out the flow. And then with our calculator tool, so that people could actually calculate what we call the epic freedom quotient, which is most of the time when people are going to do a course, they have no idea how many clients would I need and how many times a year would I need to offer this in order to make money and make an impact. And they go, huh? So that tool, I only, put the idea together in the components. And then my guys who were great, John and Chris, and the people who do so well what they do, and guess what their codes are, Jen? They're not E's and C's.
They're the P and the I, right?
Yes, but guess what? They are awesome with connecting when I understand how they like to connect. Here's what I want people to get about the connection, because people have a tendency to say, oh, those I's and those P's, they just, as if they don't enjoy connection. Yes, they do. They just enjoy connection in a different way than a big bear hug or a big, whatever. They just have a different way, and we need to respect that their way is great. So I have great relationships with them. And part of it is, when you look at your work and your business, part of it is because I've learned how to speak to Robbie in her language. And I started doing this prior to putting this together, because in the beginning, some things weren't working with us. You know what I'm saying? We're like, what is it you're saying? And we were kind of bumping heads just because we didn't understand the different language. So, that's really helped me to understand and so value people. And when I'm in a business, my business, Jen, I'll tell you this, it was Small Business of the Year in the United States. The person who was my partner in that, she really was a high P. She put the processes in place. And I tell this funny story and then I'll get back to you. But when we won the Lexington Chamber Small Business of the Year, that was in 1991. And we got a lot of awards along the way, where one magazine would want to name it. They would come to me, I want to name you top woman of whatever. And I would go, no, not unless Barbara also gets named. And they'd say, what? I said, she's my business partner. And I was very clear that I knew how to go out and get the business, set up the proposals. I knew my money, what was going to be made off that. But when it came down to it, and I brought the pennies in and the money's in and the dollars in and the millions in, she knew what to do with that. I don't want to have any, it's like, get me out of here. Those spreadsheets, now that will suck the energy out of me just saying the word spreadsheet. So do you get what I'm saying, Jen? How important it is? My most successful collaborations are going to tell you or when I've had surrounded myself with people who are different than me in the process, but with similar values as far as what's important to us at the end of the day. So
Yeah.
back to you, Jen.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dottie, for that. I would say that that's the beauty of diversity. You know, that's why we are that's why all of us have different skill sets. It's because all of us bring something very unique to the table. And this is what we're saying about the importance of knowing yourself first, because you have to know what you bring to the table, but you also need to be able to understand where you could really use different resources for the different areas of being able to run your business to the most successful that it can be. You know, for example, I know that accounting is extremely, extremely important to the lifeblood of a business. And I also have enough self-awareness to know that I shouldn't be the one doing it, that I need to be able to scout the right talent, the right person, the right accountant to be on my team, somebody that I can trust to be able to take on that aspect of the business. And so I think that that's why that's a big point that we're making in the collaboration. And as we're developing our teams and considering our teams, especially when we are, you know, developing solutions, it's to know, okay, wait, who am I? What do I bring to the table? And then what are the other aspects that need to be filled? What are the other seats that need to be filled? And who can fill them? And who's going to do the best job and the best work in doing that? And then to then now go back to the idea of resources, you know, that's what we're talking about. That was a great example that Dottie was saying. She had this great vision. She knew what she wanted to create. However, she wasn't going to be the one to go in and code these tools. That wasn't, you know, the reality was that wasn't going to be the best use of her time. Can she learn to code? Yes, she can. Is it going to be the most effective for her business? No, not at all, because that is going to take much longer than finding a resource. You know, in this case, another person who's very talented in coding. This is what they're passionate about. This is what they get excited about doing. That's the winning combination, right? One of my favorite things that came up one day, I work with another company where we've developed video marketing technology, and this is the company that we refer to a lot with my father, Vito. We have somebody that we work with who's our chief technology officer, and there was a day where I said to him, you know, I hope that you have a great day today. And he said to me, Jen, today I get to really dive into my coding. It's going to be a great day. And
Yeah.
you know, my mind is like, wow, because that's so not my personality type. That would be like my worst nightmare. But for him, I just had this moment where I said to him, thank you for being you and bringing your passion to this work, because we would be nothing without you. You know, we need that level of passion for coding for the level of work that we're doing, you know, and it just goes to show the power of diversity of skill set. I mean, that's the magic sauce for being able to build thriving businesses and then be able to execute the best solutions. So I'm going to start screen sharing.
I'm going to share one more thing, because it's about one of our wonderful E3 women, and that is Cheryl. Just give you an example. Through a project we did some time back, Cheryl, who is the connector, you know, just amazing with her kitchen table conversations and what she's done with that project, and it being one of the best ideas for humanity, won the award. And so through this project, though, she really developed some skills on creating WordPress sites. And I've done that as well. But when I got to this project, I knew I wasn't going to be able to, again, do it all. And so I reached out to Cheryl, who, you know, her natural one is her C, but she can also do this. She's amazing. So my actual website, 247epicconnections.com, that is the, you know, place where it all happens with Discover Your Epic Code, even though there's special links that allow people to do that assessment. I mean, she actually put together that website based on, again, us talking back and forth. But I mean, look at that. So sometimes you learn a skill along the way that maybe she's not going to do that full time, you know, because that's not where her biggest passion lies. But she also does enjoy that process, and she got it done for me. So how great is that?
That's awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, Dottie.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen one more time and go to the next slide. So the next question that I'll say is in the process is, what conversations and communication do you need to have for solid preparation before you go into the execution process? So this is something that I can't emphasize enough, and this is what I think it's great that you were bringing up the work of Cheryl just now, because that's what kind of comes to mind, is the power of communication and the importance of communication. You know, it's so important for everybody to be on the same page and to have clarity on what is the direction that we're all going in. So the point that I want to make with this is, you want to make sure that there's a clear idea of a plan for the execution, so everybody's on the same page, because that's where you're going to get the best results. And so I put this quote up: failure to plan is planning to fail. There's a really good, the first time that I heard this quote, I don't know who originally said this quote, but there was a time where I was going camping with one of my past boyfriend's family, and the boyfriend at the time, he was like, okay, everybody sit down. And so we were like, okay, we sat down and we were all on the couch, and he was walking back and forth and taking us through the game plan for how, the time we were going to get up, like how we were going to pack everything, what we were going to do. Like, he had it down. And he ended with, and he was so passionate when he said it, he said, because failure to plan is planning to fail. And I literally, me and his mom at the time, kind of chuckled a little bit, and he was like, ha, what is this chuckling? And, and I just said, you are absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. And I love the passion that you are bringing to this camping trip. You're right, because, the way that we're going to have a great time is making sure that our ducks are in a row. And so that was the first time that I had heard that quote. But now I really, really take it to heart in business. I think it's extremely important to remember that, at the end of the day, it's very, very important to have an understanding of what the plan is for the execution of a solution. And most important, that everybody's on the same page with what that plan is. Now, I want to reemphasize from yesterday, it's important to not forget about the execution aspect of it, to not get into the over planning. That can happen sometimes, where we're thinking through things so much that we can almost get to a point of paralysis, where we're just consistently planning and not actually taking action. So, it's a balance. We need to make sure that we're planning appropriately, everybody's on the same page, and then we really take that next step into the execution. So, the next point that I wanted to...
Analysis paralysis, Jen.
Analysis paralysis. Exactly. It's a real thing.
And just to relate it back to the codes,
Sure.
Somebody who has an E at the end, and I'll just give this real quick because I think it can be helpful.
Sure.
It's not that it's bad or anything. It's best to give it by an example. I was working with a young gentleman whose code was I, and then he was a P, a C, and an E. Or it might have been a C second, but the point is, it was I first and the E was at the end. No problem with that. But I said to him, there's going to be times that you're going to have to get out of the minutia and get out of analysis to paralysis. And by recognizing that your E is at the end, you just want to sometimes recognize, become aware, like you've been talking about, and pull that E forward and take action a little quicker. Because if you don't, you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunities. Now, the person who is the E at the front might sometimes have to, hey, take a breath before you make a decision. So it works always, but it's certainly great what you're talking about. And in executing, we have to sometimes be careful that we don't do the analysis to paralysis.
Thank you so much for that, Daddy. Absolutely. That's exactly it. It can go multiple ways. And so I do like to say, yep, we have to just have that awareness of, okay, where do I need to plan? And then where do I just need to take that action step? So to help with that, I did want to bring up the point of the power of coaching. I have really found for myself in entrepreneurship, I actually have a business coach currently, and I practice coaching myself, and I've really seen some amazing results for entrepreneurs in particular working with coaches to help with developing execution plans for solutions. And the reason why is because of how helpful it is to have an unbiased space to just be able to get the bird's eye view of whatever problem it is that you're solving, and then the different areas that you can really develop solutions for. So that was just, it's something that, I think that it's great for entrepreneurs to consider. It's not for everyone. However, though, the people that I have seen, really embrace it, have seen some great results, and I'm a product of it myself. I work with a coach on a weekly basis now to help me with one of my businesses that I work with, and am in the process of helping to develop. And it really, the benefit of it is the fact that this particular coach helps me take the bird's eye view, helps me see what I might not be seeing, because that's the thing, is when you are in it, when you're in, sometimes, when we're in the problem, we recognize the problem and we start coming up with solutions, but we might not be able to see the full picture just because we're so engrossed in it. So something that can just be helpful sometimes is just having that outside view to come in and help. And there are a ton of business coaches out there. I'm pretty positive all 5 generations are coaches here in this Get Your Biz Lean. Am I right, Dottie?
Absolutely. And you're making a great point, though. Any coach knows that we all need coaching. So that's a common thread. And that's actually how Stephanie and I connected. She offered an hour consultation on LinkedIn. And I think she was a little surprised that I took her up on it, because sometimes coaches think some of them can think they know it all, especially if you meet in that situation where you don't know one another. And I was all over it, because I was like, oh, yes, of course. Let's set that up. Thank you so much, because I love to observe other people's coaching styles, and I love being coached.
That's exactly it. Well, that's just it, is, me as a coach, I believe in coaching so much, and I'm a big believer that, I should never coach without being coached myself, because the thing is that I have to bring my best self to my coaching. Yeah. And so the way that I do that is having being coached myself. It's just this great energetic exchange that happens. And, I have somebody having my back while I can be having the back of my clients. So I think that that's just a great way of understanding coaching, but then also too, just as a great resource for being able to develop solid execution plans. And then the next step to that is having somebody hold you accountable. That's where the power is, in coaching. That's what we always say is the real power in coaching is the fact that you have somebody holding you accountable. It can be very difficult being your own boss, because you have so many people that are being held accountable to you, and managing multiple projects at any given point, and sometimes it's just really nice to have somebody else say, hey, you said that you wanted to get this done, how about you have it done by next Tuesday? And that coach is going to be asking you next Tuesday for it. So then it just helps to get it done. So it's very helpful for, like I said, the execution aspect of the plan. So developing it, and then actually the action. So just wanted to bring that forward as an option for people, if you haven't already considered it. So this next question is, what do your team members care about? That is a very, very important question I believe all business leaders need to take time with as often as possible. So one of my favorite definitions of leadership is that leadership is inspiring someone to do something because they want to do it. And let me reemphasize, it's in the because they want to do it. You know, that is what I have seen the most powerful results come from, is when everybody on a team has awareness of why they're doing what they're doing, and everybody's working towards a common goal. And everybody, I believe everybody is a leader. I'm a big believer of servant leadership, and the fact that every person in a group is the leader. We just take turns with what it is that we're leading on. And so if you are, you know, in a leadership position and you are bringing forward solutions, it's very important to understand, okay, well, what makes your team members tick? What is it that they care about? If you can help them connect the dots, you're going to see amazing results. So I'm going to stop screen sharing for a moment just to tell you a quick story. So where I really saw this, and I love to sometimes talk about the college students that I worked with, because they were some of my best teachers in my life. I was able to work at a place called the Center for Leadership and Social Change. And as you can see, this is where a lot of my leadership passion just grew more and more and more. And so I was working with some of the most astute students, I swear, on the planet. And there was a program, at the time it was called Without Words, and it was a social justice program where the students were the ones who took charge, and they were the ones who organized this event. This was a week-long event. It was an exhibit that these students would put on to be able to educate the public about some different social justice issues, and then be able to give information of the actions people could take to help bring solutions forward. So these students would work months and months and months. I think it was a good 9-month preparation project for these students. And then they would put this event on for an entire week. This still goes on. It was called Without Words at the time because it was a silent experience. So people would go through the exhibit, and you weren't able to talk. You just had to embrace and observe and take in whatever it was that you were experiencing. And then the students would lead and facilitate group discussions with the participants when they were finished, so that they could make sense of the experience and really connect whys and what was going on and what they could do about it. So as you can see, I mean, like I said, the very, very important teachers in my life, these students, and I learned more from them than, you know, a lot of, you know, probably the majority of traditional teachers that I've had.
Amazing. Oh my gosh, I can hardly keep quiet while you're talking about it.
I just, oh my gosh, these students, unbelievable. And I'm happy to say these are the students that are now graduated off in the world, who are change agents and are bringing solutions to our world's problems. You know, it really is so inspiring and so amazing. So at one particular year, a colleague and I were the advisors for this program, where we were the staff members that these students could come to, and we were there to challenge and support them along the way in their development and their ability to put on this event. And right before the event, we all got together, and it was full on stress mode, right? I mean, we have things all over the place. I mean, and this is a huge exhibit. It was 5 rooms, like an entire hallway with like all of these rooms. It was a full, huge exhibit that people would go through. And so we are in full on stress mode. And so we decided to take the team. I had the leaders of the group with us, and we decided to take the team and sit down. And we stopped and we asked everybody, why are you here? Why did you choose to volunteer Why did you choose to be part of this program? And we took time to talk about the why we were doing this. And in the midst of this stress and this chaos, there was this moment of everybody just reconnecting the dots to what it was that they cared about and why they were there. And then all of a sudden, it was like, you know, the situation didn't change. Like there was still a lot of stress and a lot needed to be done in order to pull off this event. However, though, the energy shifted and everybody completely showed up as their best selves. And they were like, yes, this is why I'm here. I'm going to bring everything I have to make this event as successful as possible.
Wow.
Wow. And so that's just one story of of seeing that in practice of a leader taking a moment to reconnect what it was that their team members cared about, and then the success that came from it. I mean, it was an amazing event, and so many. I forgot, like thousands of people went through the exhibit, you know, and they really, really had a great event, and so many people got so much out of it. And you know, and so it's just one example of when you just help your team connect the dots of what it is that they care about, why it is that they're doing what they're doing, you're going to see people go to the ends of the earth to be able to help bring these solutions forward. So that was just a quick.
Everybody was transformed in the process, not just
exactly
the people who saw the exhibit, the people who put it together and then experienced it. So that's what's amazing.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I believe I just have one final slide for us. And that is getting us ready for tomorrow. So tomorrow what we're going to do is take time to talk about the next phase of this model, which is testing the solutions. So just to recap, we first started by identifying a problem worth solving. We then brainstormed different solutions. Today we talked about the importance of the collaboration process of figuring out who's going to be part of the solution, who's on your team, who's got the resources, what are the resources, and how, you know, what is the plan for execution for trying out these solutions. And so what I want to emphasize is that tomorrow we're going to really talk about that this is going to be a test, right? It's not about getting it right off the bat. It's just about testing and then figuring out, okay, what's working and then what needs to change, and we'll dive more into that tomorrow. But that's everything that I have for you today. I hope that it's helpful. You know, I cannot thank you enough, Dottie, for taking the time to be on here with me today. It really, really helps to have that level of collaboration. I think it was perfect to be able to collaborate during the collaboration phase.
You're welcome, Jen. My pleasure.
And one of my favorite things to say is I had the opportunity to spend time on the Big Island of Hawaii before moving to Charleston for a while, and something that people would say on the Big Island was they like to sit down and talk story. And I love that. That's something that I love, the phrase talking story. And I think that is very important. And I love what you were saying, Dottie, about the importance of being able to bring real life application to these theories. And I believe our abilities today to be able to talk story together made this much more powerful. And I thank you so much for sharing your story. And thank you for giving me space to share my stories. And I look forward to talking more story with you all the rest of the week.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jen.
Thank you.